Today is the feast of Saint Rita. There's very little that we actually know about her life other than Saint Rita was, even from her childhood, a very holy and very pious young lady. She would eventually get married and live in an unhappy marriage, to be honest. She would have a few children, and the sadness that would confront her would be the death of these children. And so her life just seemed to always to be confronted with sorrow, with pain. But yet, even in the midst of this, we know of Rita because the testimony of others who marveled at how she persevered in the midst of the sorrow and the pain, how she persevered in her faith. And that she knew how to live with the sorrow. And she knew how to embrace the joy of a God who she knew that was always present in her life. She would eventually become a nun, a religious. But even there, she encountered many struggles and many hardships. But again, there was always an attainment of happiness in her life, of her time in prayer, of her ability to reach out to those who were most in need, those who came to the convent door. She always wanted, and she found great joy in knowing that her sorrows, her sufferings, she always felt that they were immersed in the very wounds of Jesus Christ. And in that she came to know her God. But she also knew the joy that God promises in the resurrection. She was fond of saying that she knew how to live with sorrow because she knows the joy of Jesus, of the resurrection. Many of us out there, certainly we all know the burden of grief. And so this gospel, and I think even the life of St. Rita, shows us today that it's important to name those moments of sorrow and mourning, to really name them, to name the loss in our life. Not as moments of defeats, but indeed as moments of knowing that even with this great loss, it is still better to love. Even to love those who now have broken our heart because they are gone. But to know that love, indeed, even in the midst of sorrow, helps us to live. And so this day, this gospel, the life of St. Rita, shows us that indeed, because of the risen Jesus, because of the perseverance and the grace that we receive from our God, that we too can live in the midst of sorrow, and also at the same time embrace those moments, those shining lights of joy and of peace. So maybe today on this Friday we might want to name some of the loss, name some of the grief, but also realize the perseverance, that indeed we live because we have been loved, and that we are loved by the risen and the joy of the risen Jesus.